Hi, my name is Stephen Lau with OttawaKiosk.com, and we're doing a little segment on advertising that works. And what we're going to be talking today about is newspaper advertising for small businesses. I'm here today with Grenville Clark from Ottawa Kiosk as well. Before we start, Grenville, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm now an Ottawa Kiosk representative, internet marketing specialist, and I've been in the business for about 10 years. I've worked in other businesses, so from construction straight through to hospitality, and pretty well everything in between. Today, I'd like to talk, join you on this conversation. And
Sure. I think the first thing that I want to know, we're in the internet business, but I personally think newspapers are still a viable option today. I think we still need it. What are your thoughts? Is newspaper advertising still a viable product?
Newspaper advertising is still very strong, and a good marketing individual understands that you must have a number of different components in your marketing toolkit. Of course, internet component, a radio component is strong, and your paper, print, or specifically your newspaper component is strong as well, and very, very valid.
Yeah, I think I agree with you in that it is valid. I think for the reason that internet is where people go to when they need something, but what's that thing that pushes out to people? It's very hard to do that. The newspaper will end up in your home. People still go to chapters and buy magazines and stuff like that. So print advertising is absolutely critical. Also, there's a branding aspect to it. There's a certain cachet to be in newspapers or to be in a particular magazine, right? Because you've reached a certain stage. There's a certain credibility towards it. I think those all speak to the viability of newspapers.
Well, and that's true. What happens is the difference in how the print works, and newspaper specifically works, is when somebody is reaching for that newspaper on the shelf, it's not because they know your ad is in there. And that's probably the single most important point about newspaper advertising. Your message will get across, but it's not appealed to because they know that you or your competitor or any other advertiser is in there. They might be taking that newspaper for the crossword puzzles.
Yeah, you never know what it's for. Should a small business be considering, if a small business is considering newspaper advertising, and it's the first time they've done it, what do we need to tell them about it? I want to know a little bit about what is the cost, why is the cost that way, and can they just do it once?
Well, the important thing about newspaper and almost any publication that goes out is how many people it's reaching. And that is probably going to determine the cost. So if this newspaper is reaching 80,000 people weekly, then there's going to be a specific cost to it. Of course, we expect a lower cost if it's only reaching 25,000 people monthly.
In your experience, and I'm not saying you know this off the top of your head or anything like that, but in your experience, what's the typical cost? Can you give an example?
I would say that if you were working with newspaper advertising, you're going to look at, to get reasonable frequency for price, keeping the industry fairly general, probably about $500 a month.
$500 a month, and how many times is that? Once a month? Or
that's going to be an insertion, let's say, in a publication that is biweekly.
Okay, so twice a month.
Twice a month.
Yeah.
And in that case, we're still looking at a pretty small ad.
Okay, small. What do you mean, like a full, half-page ad, or?
That's going to be an entry level, probably about an eighth of a page ad.
Eighth of a page ad. So you're saying that in a newspaper that reaches about 80,000 people, distributed twice monthly, it's about $250 for an eighth of an ad.
And that is in a situation where you've probably set yourself up with a year-long campaign or a 6-month campaign.
Absolutely.
That allows them to give you the economies of scale.
Now, is this enough, though? If I just do it twice, is that good enough, or do I need to really think about, creating a year-long campaign? Because, what's the effectiveness of it? Because, what I've heard is that, if someone isn't going to buy that product right there, but they'll see the ad, is that they need to see your logo or that special or that thing that you're trying to promote about 8 to 12 times. in order to just get into their head. It's like, oh yeah, this restaurant has this special every Tuesday. Because I've seen it, although I haven't used it, I've seen it. Is that correct then? Is that newspaper advertising should be just done like just once or twice, but rather it be a long-term thing?
Yes, and it's, to answer the question directly, it should be more long-term. And loosely speaking, you want about, like you said, about 8 to 12. In the past, it used to be 6, what would be exposures or impressions, was the rule. I think we've seen that change within the industry to 8 to 12. What is happening is if somebody is picking up your newspaper for a specific article and your ad happens to be beside that, what is the likelihood that you will be able to draw their eye from the article that they're interested in to your content? Specials, coupons, creativity, is it brighter, the artwork itself? You want to be able to pull the attention. And in a certain sense, those are the elements of what we call outbound advertising, is that you have to, because they're not thinking about you specifically, you have to draw the attention, whether that's a billboard, whether that's newspaper advertising. And because they're not buying the newspaper for you specifically, you have to do that on a number of occasions to make that impression concrete, to make a lasting impression. Okay. So about 8 to 12 times you want to be able to get in front of them.
Sure, because so what you're saying is that the newspaper isn't a place where someone goes when they're looking for something specific from a business. Rather, they're going to it for many reasons, like an article on a particular thing, news, crossword puzzles, comics, movie listings, whatever it is. And then if they see your ad, you're saying that creativity is important as well.
Of course. Right?
So let's speak a little bit about that. I mean, if I'm spending, say, $500 a month at the newspaper, how much are I, should I just do the ad myself as a small business? Because, there's limited budget. Or do you think they should use a graphic designer to actually come up with a creative ad?
This is very important. It's a very important point because many people believe that they can go out there. Yes, there's very sophisticated ad and creative software, graphic software, and then there's very simple tools that can make your business look very cheap and professional and do the exact opposite of what you want to do. It will lead people away from you. The average consumer has a very discerning eye nowadays, and with the advent of more digital products, cheaper graphic arts work, you should be able to put together a nice, fairly sophisticated ad, and with some creativity whatsoever, have something for a reasonable price to pull the people in. Doing it yourself is absolutely not the way to do it. It doesn't pay off.
So let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about measuring whether a newspaper ad works.
Okay.
Right? And so, because I've heard of many things out there now, like you can buy virtual phone numbers so that you can just put in an ad, and that ad is only in one newspaper, as an example. And if you don't get any calls from it, you'll know exactly whether that ad is working or not. Or if you're getting calls, it's specifically for that ad. And I've heard people using, say, different domain names, and that's the only place that they use it, so that if anyone goes to that particular website with that domain, we know it's coming from that ad. I mean, what do you think about these measurement tools? Is it realistic to think that a small business can even use these?
Small businesses can use these, and they're offered in many different ways. Valpak uses that same kind of utility, the alternate phone number utility. Different URLs is a sensible way of doing it as well, and measuring it. Strong measurement tools, because then we go straight back to Google Analytics, so you can quantify things a little better. The average consumer now is becoming a little more sophisticated in terms of phone utilities. They know, in many cases, that that's not the original phone number. If they get a voice that is a call center individual and then you're passed on, are they going to tend to lose interest? I know I do. If I know that that is not the owner or a certified representative of the Windows company or whatever product I'm looking for, I may be disheartened and look elsewhere. The phone is also taking a different stance in marketing now. In many cases, it's being viewed negatively, just because there's so many. The use of the phone for cold calls and so forth to the consumer base has just gone through the roof. So I'm a little sensitive about the phone. I find that tools, different URLs, they give you a greater benefit without leaving behind this residual effect.
But for small businesses, there's options that are now available for them to actually measure.
Yes.
So that's good. So just to wrap up, maybe in your experience, if you could maybe give small businesses advice, what is the best advice that you can give small businesses about newspaper advertising?
What I would say about newspaper advertising is certainly the nature of the newspaper. You want to know the character of the newspaper, who's publishing it, the publisher, the editor themselves, what kind of message they like to send, what message the newspaper sends. Is it an industry product? If it's a general newspaper, its frequency, the number of people it gets out to, and you want to be very sensitive as to how often your ad is going to appear. On a weekly basis, if your budget is a little smaller, you might want to put a little more space in between your frequency. So instead of every day, you might want to go every week. Apply that kind of rule. It also depends on what you're buying too, so you've got to think about that as well. But there's definitely space for newspaper. Just really look at how they measure and how your representative specifically is going to tell you that they're going to measure and give you back results.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.